In this video, Mike Murata shares the differences and similarities of assistive technology, or AT, educational technology, or EdTech, information technology, or IT, and how AT fits in with Universal Design for Learning, or UDL. You'll hear information about how AT may still be required if schools are engaging in a one-to-one or bring your own device model. The handout that goes along with this video includes the lengthy but important definitions of these interconnected terms. By breaking down these definitions, you can truly see how they differ, yet can coexist. And without further ado, here's Mike.
We'll start with the tech part first. This becomes that conversation of what is the tech? What is it? And so is it AT? Is it EdTech? Is it information tech? So is it AT, ET, or IT? This is fun. Let's see how we go here. So here, we'll start with the definition. Any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether you get it commercially off the shelf, modify or customize it, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of a child with a disability. Educational technology is the study and ethical practice of facilitating learning and improving performance by creating, using, and managing appropriate technological processes and resources. Information technology is the technology involved in the development, maintenance, and use of computer systems, software, and networks for the processing and distribution of data. So we have these three kind of wordy definitions, as definitions tend to be kind of wordy. So now we get this conversation of, okay, so there it is. It's a Chromebook. What is it? Yeah. All. The answer is yes. It can be any of them. Sure. It starts to be that idea of the technologies we're talking about now are most times off-the-shelf types of technologies. Previously, our tech tools we would use tended to be fairly black and white. This was clearly an AT tool. It was purchased from a special catalog, from a special vendor. It had different support that it got. It was more complex and involved. It had a clear use for someone with a disability, someone who was struggling with some function. Or it wasn't, or it was just a computer in the classroom. There was one or the other. But now we're in this weird kind of spot where all our technology we talk about is gray at this point. I don't know. Is it AT? Is it EdTech? I don't know. It's all of them. Is it IT? It can be any of these things. And we think about this idea in this kind of visual representation. What the technology is starts to look at where its function lies. If we think about that Chromebook, use that Chromebook as our example. If that Chromebook is used as a tool to access a network and share email or retrieve data, it is IT. It's big. It's the big circle. If it is used in a classroom setting for all to access curricular materials and activities, it is an EdTech device. If it is used by a student in order to improve, maintain, or increase functional capabilities, go back to the definition, then it becomes an AT device. It could be both at the same time. For that matter, it could be all three at the same time. For the same student, they could be using that as an AT tool to access curriculum. They can use that as an AT tool to access their network resources. So it can be all, but the function of how we're using it starts to define what it is. There is this constant conversation, and I throw this out there because I've had teachers say to me, well, I don't need AT in my room because I do UDL. I love that. I just twitched a little bit. You do UDL. I don't know what that means either. You do UDL. I do AT. I don't know what those mean. But all right, let me pass through that for now. But that idea of can they coexist? And this idea of UDL being an initiative that's a special ed thing. or a general ed thing. And so there is some confusion there as to what this is. And really, it's not either, quite honestly. It's just everyone. It's right in the word. It says universal. It's everybody. And what I think I find, and maybe you've seen this too, is this idea that a lot of times people in special ed inherently provide more supports in their environment because of the nature of students they're working with who need different supports. So I think when you talk about the concept of UDL, that sometimes fits much cleaner into someone from special ed, their mindset of how they would provide support to a student. And so I think a lot of times that's why it falls into these areas. But it's not just a special ed thing. It's providing some supports that are flexible in the environment to give them the chance to use options that they prefer. This comes from the organization called CAST. And the UDL guidelines are at their website, udlguidelines.cast.org. So I don't expect you to read this picture from here, sorry, but I just wanted to visualize it. If you go to the website, every one of the principles and every one of the objectives below them is hot linked to more information. So if you're not sure what one of them means, click it, it'll bring you somewhere else and give you some more info. All of it focuses back on this idea of flexible. Flexible and providing options. Options for everything. Options that are flexible for goals, learning goals, the methods you use to share the instruction, the materials you use within the curriculum, and then finally the assessments you use in order to see where the students are at. The options that are provided to everyone should include the options that this student needs. And so it doesn't eliminate the need for AT. It is available to all, right? And so that changes what I'll often say to a team or a director when they ask, well, we don't need AT in that room now. And I'll say, no, you still need AT because this student still needs something in order to be successful. The power of one-to-one could be for our students with disabilities because suddenly I'm not the only one. If I need a Chromebook to do my work and I'm not feeling comfortable, guess what? Suddenly everybody's using it. Oh, that's not so bad. What if I need to dictate? And suddenly that's a way that the teacher shows everyone to complete a task. Oh, maybe I'll do my task all of a sudden. Because it's now in the environment, it's provided as a support for all. And it goes back to that core question. If we have tech everywhere, does it eliminate the need for tech in our IEPs? No, of course not. If the need is still there, the need is still the need. The availability has changed, but the need is still there. Perhaps that gets written into the narrative piece that student needs this device in order to be successful. Good news, it's already in the environment. Okay, cool, so we don't have to buy it. But we at least acknowledge that it was there. The other half of that one-to-one is bring your own device. The idea with this would be everybody has a device, but they have their own device. And then you give it access to your network in order to finish it, in order to provide them with a platform to finish their work and do their work, which is great. It's cheap for a school because you're not buying stuff. It's expensive for a school because you have all of these issues. You may have less of a cost in technology. I'm not buying a laptop for everyone. Great. I'm gonna let them bring their own. But then, how do I make sure every single laptop connects to the network? How do I make sure every single laptop connects to their email that they need? How do I make sure that the teacher infusing technology into their lesson understands that it might look different on every device someone sits down at? If someone has their own device, how do you manage and install AT for them? So this only happens if you're in a situation where people are using their own tech. And so I serve a handful of schools. This is the issue. Everybody brings in their own device. Or a student has a phone and then they're going to load an AUGCOM app on it, an AAC app on it. How do they do that? How do they pay for the app? How do they install it? Who's in charge of keeping it working? What if the phone breaks? Can someone come back and say, you broke my phone with your app? How do you get the app back when the student leaves? You know, so if you're talking about a BYOD program and people are using their own stuff, these are issues that can pop up. Again, these programs also don't eliminate the need for AT. Again, if I have a BYOD and I bring my own device, but I still need a tool in order to be effective, I still need the tool. The AT is still needed. So that doesn't eliminate it, it just changes how I provide it.